Christmas is well and truly over. It's January, you're back to work, and the January blues have really kicked in, and you need a new job. In fact, you think consulting is just the career for you. Good choice, by the way. So you might be asking yourself questions such as, how do I get into consulting? What experience do I need? What does the application process look like? If those questions are on your mind, then stay tuned because this video is for you. Now, there are broadly two ways to get into consulting. One is as an experienced hire, that's how I came to consulting, or through a graduate or apprenticeship program. Now, if we were to talk about how to get into consulting through both of these in one video, honestly, we'd be here an hour, you'd switch off, you'd be super bored. So I'm actually going to split this into two episodes. So if you're here to learn more about how to get into consulting as a graduate, then hold fire. That video is going to be coming out on Saturday. And so you don't miss out, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know when that video has launched. But if you're here to hear about getting into consulting as an experienced hire, then stay tuned because that's all we're going to talk about now. Going to consulting as an experienced hire is a topic I know a lot about because this is how I came to consulting. I did 2 years on a graduate program in Sky before deciding that industry wasn't really for me and hopping over the fence into consulting. So firstly, what is an experienced hire? Well, an experienced hire is kind of what it says on the tin. It's somebody who has a reasonable amount of prior work experience. Now, what does reasonable amount mean? I would say that if you've got anything from minimum of a year's continuous work experience, then you can credibly apply for experienced hire positions. But when we talk about experience, what experience do you actually need? Well, I didn't have any formal consulting experience before I got hired into Accenture. Now, this is because I had lots of project management experience and I actually have a background in digital marketing and I'd been advising small and medium-sized companies on digital marketing in a previous life. So although I didn't have exact consulting experience, I had a lot of transferable skills. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I have a year's worth of experience, but it's not exactly consulting experience, then I'd still encourage you to think about experienced hire positions because you can look at the transferable skills and look at how you can bring the skills that you have from your work today and add value to a client in a consulting context. So what can you actually expect from the application process? Well, it varies a little bit, and obviously with everything being remote now, that has also changed the experience just a little bit. Now, the first thing is it depends what firm you apply to. So if you're applying to somewhere like McKinsey, BCG and Bain, then you can expect to have to take some tests just like graduates have to take when you apply to a graduate program. So you can expect to have to do things like numerical tests, reasoning tests, verbal, non-verbal reasoning tests. Personally, I really hate them because I don't think that they're correlated to your ability to perform in a role at all, but those companies feel that they do, so you can expect to have to do that as part of the process. Generally, that's right at the beginning of the process. In fact, it's very similar to a graduate application. So you would have to fill in your details in the portal, upload your CV. You might need to upload a cover letter as well. And then some firms will give you the test straight away. Some will thank you for your application and then give you the test. So it's down to each firm as to how they choose to play it. But it's actually quite uncommon to have to do that for a consulting experienced hire position. What's more normal is you'll fill in your details through an online portal, you'll upload your CV, maybe a cover letter, and they'll ask you a lot about your experience. Now, they might have some predefined questions, or it might just be simply a data gathering exercise along with your CV and cover letter. Once you've done that, if you're successful, you'll get an email inviting you to a first stage interview. This is where somebody in the firm who is maybe 1 or 2 levels above the level that you've applied for will do a general kind of competency interview with you. This is when you can expect some of those "tell me about a time when" questions that everybody loves. For this interview, I would make sure that you're aware of some of the trends that are coming up in whatever area of consultancy you've applied to. So if it's technology, know what the technology trends are. If the firm you've applied to tends to publish a particular viewpoint or a particular white paper on the topic, then make sure you're aware of the latest version of that. If it's in something like financial services consultancy, make sure you're knowing what's going on in the industry trends. If you are somebody like me who came from a kind of quirky background and the experience isn't an obvious mapping, make sure you're very clear in your mind about what transferable skills you've got and what value you can bring to the team. If you do come from a pretty unconventional background, definitely don't shy away from that in the interview. Wear that with pride, wear it on the outside. When I was going for interviews, I loved to tell people all about my business at the age of 18, all about how digital marketing is going to make me a fantastic telco technology consultant. I love to show how the diversity of my experience will actually make me a real value add consultant. You've been successful again, you're through to the second stage, congratulations! Firms like to use the second interview as a case study interview. For this, they'll send you something in advance, which is generally a kind of client briefing or a summary of the client problem statement, and they'll ask you, what solution would you use to solve this? Always treat the interviewer as the client, and I actually really like a case study interview because this is a good representation of what you will actually be doing on the job. As you're going through the case study interview, firstly, you need to really enjoy the preparation, because if you don't enjoy doing the prep, then you need to ask yourself if this is really the right career for you, because this is a great indication of how you're going to spend every day, day in, day out. And if you don't even enjoy the interview prep, maybe it's not for you. But let's assume that you are enjoying it and you're feeling fired up, ready for the interview. Now, I would make sure that you have prepared this document for your interview exactly like you would if you were presenting it to a real client. Now you get the call. You're through to the third and final stage of the application process. Generally, experienced hires have a 3-stage application process, so if you're through to this stage, then there's a pretty good chance it's the last hurdle, the final straight. Don't muck it up now. Generally, the final stage is an MD interview. This is where an MD in the firm will conduct a final interview with you. And what they're looking for at this stage is different to what they've looked at before. Up till now, they've generally been assessing your capability to do the job as much as your cultural fit for the firm that you're applying to. But to be honest, if you've got to this stage, then they know you're probably going to be able to do the job. It's more around fit. And whilst this can be the most nerve-wracking interview because it's got the most pressure, because it's the final one, because it's so close, in a way, this is actually the interview that you need to enjoy the most, because this is the person that you are ultimately going to be working for when you join that firm. So it's really important that as much as they're assessing fit with you, you need to be assessing fit with them. Is this the type of person that you want to work for? Now, in every stage of the application, they'll always be giving you opportunities to ask questions, but I would say of any of the stages, this is the one to ask the most questions, because really, it's by asking questions that you truly show you're interested in the firm. After this, it's just a waiting game. Let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons. So, in terms of the pros, let's just be straight up honest about this. The number one pro of coming in as an experienced hire is the salary. If I compare an analyst graduate salary to a consultant salary, there may be as much as 10, 15, even 20k difference between the two. You are going to come in at a much higher salary than as a graduate. And of course you are, because what they're paying you for is that additional experience. The other big pro, therefore, is the level of responsibility that you'll get when you go onto a project. Obviously, if you have somebody who's an analyst and you have somebody who's a consultant, it'll be the consultant who gets to do more of the client-facing work, more of the leading workshops, more of the driving initiatives, rather than some of the more mundane stuff, which provides the training ground for the step up to the stuff that consultants do. You'll have much more client visibility and much more visibility to more senior people within the firm as a result of being an experienced hire than if you come in as a graduate. It's just plain fact. So what about the cons? Well, maybe I shouldn't really call these cons, but they're certainly things to be aware of, particularly if you don't have that much experience. Obviously, like I've just said, when you come in as an experienced hire, it's exactly that, right? They expect you to bring your previous experience. They expect you to be able to carry this forward in a transferable way. Therefore, the expectations on you are that much higher. If you come in and you do a pretty average job as an experienced hire, honestly, people think you're a bit meh. But if you come in and do a pretty average job as a graduate, people say that you're learning. My point is, you have to at least look to the outside world like you're ready to take on that level of expectation that the firm will have of you. I remember when I first came to Accenture, I was acutely aware that I had just walked out of a graduate program straight into this experienced hire job. And at times I had some serious imposter syndrome, but I had to just keep holding my ground and saying, no, look, they hired you for a reason. You can do this. You need to learn fast and quietly in the background and make it look like you already knew it. And eventually it comes more naturally. And even though I knew at times I was kind of faking it until I was making it, I really enjoyed the challenge, which is why I knew I'd made the right decision. Related to that then, the other con is training. So of course, in a consultancy firm, there is oodles of training around because a consultancy firm's product is its people, so we need to have our people up to speed with the latest knowledge. But if you come in on a graduate program, there is a lot of very structured, formal training, and you'll get loads of classroom training. Whereas when you come in as an experienced hire, your training is much more on the how do you practically navigate your way around the systems. For example, how can I fill in my timesheet, do my expenses? How do I find a role, for example, rather than on skills-based training. And the expectation is that you make time to do that skills-based learning whilst you're in a project, rather than having structured, dedicated time as part of your onboarding to do that. Me personally, that wasn't a problem, and because I was on an out-of-town project, when you're sitting in a hotel by yourself, honestly, I didn't really have anything better to do than doing some training. But you have to be motivated to push yourself to do that in the evening after your working day, because no one is going to give you that time on a plate if you come in as an experienced hire. To wrap this video up, personally, I love coming to consulting as an experienced hire. Personally, when I was leaving university, I knew I lacked the maturity to do something like a consulting graduate program. I just knew I wasn't quite ready yet. So I'm glad I took the path that I did. I feel like I came to consulting at just the right time in my career. I certainly didn't have a lot of experience when I came into Accenture, yet I still made it, and 10 months after I joined, I got a double promotion, which just goes to prove that even if you don't have perfect consulting experience, even if you don't have the perfect CV, even if you don't fit the perfect stereotype, go and give it a shot. You never know where it might lead. I wish you all the best of luck with your application. If you've got any questions or queries, drop them in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more content like this. In the next video, we're going to talk about graduate applications, so join us for that. See you there.